Here are 15 black inventors that you should have heard of, coming to you live from the National Inventors Hall of Fame. We're going to kick things off with Marie Van Britten Brown, the woman who was ADT and Ring before ADT and Ring ever existed. In the 1960s, as a nurse in New York, she was fascinated with electronic products, and her husband happened to work in the electronics industry, so she got her hands on some closed-circuit television cameras. And what she did was create a home security system, complete with that closed-circuit camera, remote door locks, panic buttons to the fire and police department. She could remotely lock and unlock her door, and she received a patent for this.
George Washington Murray was born into slavery in 1853 in South Carolina, and he actually served in Congress. He was the only African American in the 53rd and 54th Congress. But he was also an inventor, and he held 8 patents in farming and agriculture. And one of those patents, those inventions, was this one right here, which was inspired by his wife's sewing machine. And it was a farming device that had interchangeable parts.
Next up on our list is the man, the myth, the legend, George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver did not invent the peanut, that was the big guy, or peanut butter, but he did find over 325 uses for the peanut, aka legume, revolutionizing the entire industry.
Patricia Bath was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2022 and was the first black woman physician to receive a medical patent. Her invention? The laser phaco, a new device and technique for removing cataracts.
Dr. Gladys West, a Virginia State University graduate who went on to work at the Naval Surface Warfare Center for over 40 years, she came up with many, many amazing things. But the crazy thing and the most amazing thing she did is she figured out the gravitational and tidal forces on our planet. And she figured out the mathematical computations, and what this led to is pinpoint accuracy of GPS.
Familiar with blood banks and blood mobiles, then thank Dr. Charles Drew of the illustrious Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Dr. Drew created a way for us to not only preserve blood, but to transport it, which was very important during World War II, which saved countless numbers of lives. Unfortunately, African Americans at that time were not allowed to actually donate blood, but that was reversed in 1942 when the Red Cross allowed it, except that blood was still segregated. Dr. Charles Drew then resigned in protest. Sadly, Dr. Charles Drew would actually die in 1950 in a car accident.
One of my favorite inventors of all time, Frederick McKinley Jones. He was orphaned at 11 years old with a 6th grade education, and he went on to change our world. Not only did he patent the movie ticket dispensing machine, he created a pre-runner of the snowmobile and the portable x-ray machine. He also created mobile refrigeration, which gave the world Thermo King, which is how we transport frozen items from point A to point B. And he received over 60 patents in his lifetime.
If you like breadcrumbs in your salad, then you're gonna love Joseph Lee. Born in 1849, he spent the first 10 years of his life in slavery. He then went on to be a blacksmith in the Civil War and then served as a steward in the U.S. Coast Survey. Now, as a steward, he was a cook and a baker. And it was the baking that changed everything. A self-taught entrepreneur, Lee created a device that was a kneading device that helped streamline the baking process and create more uniform bread. With a lot more bread, he started looking around and seeing that there's a lot actually going to waste. And so even though it may be a day old or a little stale, he's like, you know what, there's something that can be done about this. And so he created the breadcrumber.
James West holds over 250 national and international patents. He's most famously known for the electric microphone, and over 90% of microphones in use today are based upon his technology.
One of the best-selling toys of all time and a water gun that changed the world, the Super Soaker, was actually invented by a nuclear engineer and a graduate of Tuskegee University, Lonnie Johnson.
Now let's talk about Ned. We don't actually know his last name because Ned was an enslaved black American man, and he came up with the idea of the double cotton scraper. But the man who enslaved him, Oscar Stewart, tried to patent that idea, but because he couldn't prove that he came up with it, he couldn't receive the patent. And because Ned was an enslaved man, he couldn't prove citizenship, America.
Thomas Jennings was the first African American to receive a patent in the United States for dry scouring, which is today what we call dry cleaning. In 1820, he applied for the patent and had to take an oath to swear that he was actually a citizen of the United States. Now, he was a freeman, so he was a citizen. Upon his death, Frederick Douglass wrote that the patent recognized his citizenship,
I told you about Ned, but let me tell you about Madam C.J. Walker, one of the first American women to be a self-made millionaire. She built a hair product company that became an international conglomerate. And she was so successful because she invested back in her business and the communities that supported her. And she actually went to President Woodrow Wilson in 1917 to demand that we make lynching a crime.
If you like working from home, then thank Marion Croak, the inventor of the voice over the internet protocol. She's the one who kept us all connected during COVID. Walt Disney's most prolific inventor is Laney Smoot. He has 106 patents and counting. And one of my personal favorites is the extendable lightsaber. And he has been revolutionizing the film industry. And one of those inventions is this right here, the holotile floor technology, which allows actors to be on stage, stand on the floor, and walk and move in any direction without ever actually moving.
This concludes our tour at the National Inventors Hall of Fame here in Alexandria, Virginia. Well, this is like a living, breathing database of some of the most brilliant and American genius in our country's history.
So, what are we going to talk about next?
Next.